Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long Term Podcast. I'm your host, Adin Villa. Today, we have a former screening officer. Currently, now he is an aviator, Morgan Dyjur. We will discuss aviation, security screening, holding yourself accountable, maintaining relationships in the new age, and taking risks. Everybody, welcome. So yeah, everyone, welcome to the Long Term Podcast. Morgan Dyjur here. And what initially drew you into aviation?
I think it was my dad that initially drew me into aviation. He's worked for all my life as an avionics technician with a company called Dyjur Avionics out of the city center airport. And for as long as I can remember, my mom used to take me into his work, and I'd sit in the hangar while he worked on aircraft all day, and be in there with these King Airs and some single engines. And at one point, the police helicopter was in that hangar. So spent a lot of time kind of around aviation. I took a different path with my dad, right? He's an avionics technician, so he installs the instruments and radios that I as a pilot would use. And that's, I think, what initially drew me into aviation.
He's more of would you say it's like a hardware type and soft? Because
yeah,
in regards to computers, he's more of the making the actual system and the different parts, and you're more the software, where you do use the tools that are provided.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that would make sense. They do install a bunch of stuff there, and then I'm the one that would use them, as I see fit for the flight, and then I'm also the guy that breaks them. So I'm software in that sense.
So I asked you before we started the podcast, I asked you about your favorite aspect in flying. So can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I think the big aspect for me is the freedom that you get while flying. There's a lot of work you do on the ground, and your life's kind of spilling into it, and then that all ends as soon as you kind of turn onto the runway and you're lined up and you're ready to go. And then you have this moment where you're like, okay, everything looks good, we're going, and you go full throttle, and then everything else just stops. Everything on the ground is just gone. And then you're on the takeoff roll, right? So you're watching engine gauges, making sure everything's coming up, and then it's all of a sudden time to rotate and depart. So then now you're flying. Now you're on the climb out, and you got this after departure checklist, and you just got all this stuff that you're doing, and then you got to come up and contact air traffic control. So you're busy, and it seems very regulated, but it's also very free. It's this weird thing where it's you get 500 feet above the ground, and you look out and you can see for miles. I can be on departure, and I can see ABJ from Cooking Lake.
Yeah.
And I'm that's probably 25, 30 miles away, right?
There's this idea of flow where you get super into a task and you just forget about all your problems. You forget about even today's plans, and you're so immersed in the moment because you enjoy the endeavor, because you enjoy, you're so passionate about it. Would you say you get into that flow state when you fly?
I definitely think so, for sure.
Yeah. Was that, can you describe a particular memorable flight?
Yeah, I have a few of them. My first one that I can remember, we were just doing a test flight for some aircraft radios that my dad had installed in it. I was sitting in the back, and it felt kind of crazy. It felt like we were banking super hard, and we probably weren't. But that's one of my earliest memories of flying. In particular for me. There's a guy a couple hangars down. His name's Brock. He's a good guy, and he has an airplane called the model is an Extra 300. It's the same plane that Red Bull Air Racing uses. And he took me up on a flight, and that thing is very fun. There's tons of power behind it. It's a super strong airframe, and we went and did what we call aerobatics. So we went up, we did a couple of rolls, barrel rolls, and then yeah.
The barrels?
Yeah,
that must have been
this year. It was very fun, actually.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
did one, and then he told me to do a roll left and right, and I'd done them previously because
Mhm.
he's taken me up in his plane. He's got a plane they used to train
Mhm.
World War II pilots on.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's old, and I've been
Mhm.
up in there, and I've done rolls and loops in that as well. But
Wow.
now we're in a much more nimble
You can't
aircraft.
do that in a commercial like plane, though, eh?
Well, they say you can do anything once in an airplane.
um, man, so flying to you, I remember uh, for those of you listening, Morgan and I have been going to elementary to grade four. Grade four was when you
Hmm.
started at St. T's, right?
Yep, grade 4.
And at that point, you were actually still super into flying, right? I remember coming over to your house and you would play the simulator.
The flight sim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
FSX, yeah.
Yeah, you still play that?
Sorry?
You still play it?
Not anymore. I play the upgraded version.
Yeah, like
Yeah, the
your
new age
actual.
version.
Oh, okay, okay. Um, so what did it feel like to fly for the first time? Where it was just you,
Just me.
just you.
Um, yeah, that's a funny one actually. It was my
Mhm.
first solo flight, so I'd done a bunch of training before and had a bunch of exams I had to do. And so we do a flight, and then you drop your instructor off like on the ramp. You don't even go back to the hangar. You just like drop them off, and they slam the door while the engines start running. They go,
Yeah.
"Don't die."
That's what they. That's what he said.
That's what she said. Yeah, she
Don't die.
Yeah, she basically said, "Yeah, don't crash, don't die. See ya. Wait until I'm out of the prop arc, and I'll go." And yeah, you take off, and you're so scared you can't feel anything for the takeoff roll, and then after you're airborne, it feels weird departing because it's lighter. You've never had a lighter aircraft before, and then it was about the downwind, which I'm coming parallel to the runway to come back into land, where I'm like, I looked around and I was like, I'm actually flying this thing like myself, like it's just me.
Yeah.
It was this weird. It was this weird like. I don't want to be like cheesy like that and say it was a spiritual experience, but like
It could be, man. It
it
very
was
well
just
could be.
it was just super cool to level out, and then you get a few seconds to kind of chill, and you're like, oh, like this is it. This is what we're doing, and it felt really, really fulfilling to kind of take that first big step in my path of my
Just
license.
adrenaline just coursing
Mhm.
through your veins. You're
Yeah.
looking around. It's just you're how many feet up in the air?
At that, I'd be 1,000 feet.
1,000 feet.
Yeah.
And you are just so immersed in the moment.
Hmm.
You don't think about anything. And I think that's a form of meditation. Almost, right? Everything just when I'm so caught up in a task that when you're scared about doing something,
Hmm.
right? Those moments are so fulfilling because
Yes.
right after it you look back and you go, wow, that was one of the best things ever. Let's do
Yeah.
it again.
Yeah.
Hmm. And you just kept coming back and then coming back, and then slowly you got better.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you stay safe while flying?
Um, well, we focus on that a lot more now.
Mhm.
In the last 20 years, as an industry, we've tried to really increase our margin of safety. Flying small airplanes like I do is about the same death rate as driving a motorcycle. Now, we're focusing on good decisions and everything like that. So, a lot of what we do in schools now is teaching good decision making, pilot decision making. While something can get you there faster, is it safer, right? You're always trying to take the safer route. So we have the big thing is the pilot not making a poor choice, which I actually just finished an accident report on it that like 5 people could have survived it in this flight if they'd made the decision to just not go that day or not overload the airplane or a million other different things that could have prevented it. So a lot of it's decision making. The other thing is that like they say that the industry's gone through these different eras, like the technical era, like when we were learning how to fly airplanes. Um, they just break and you just die because they broke. Now we're past that, right? Like we have engines that are time proven. The airframes are quite safe, and now we're moved into what we call the organizational era. So we're trying to figure out any kind of gaps in our safety margins. within the organization, whether that be Transport Canada or the company that you're operating with, and we're trying to fix those. We're trying to basically minimize the death that's going on anywhere at any level in aviation. Now, at the top level, because they're carrying billions of people every year, they've fixed that. But the guys that are just dinking around in a plane over here, they're not at that level yet.
So, what are the conditions to look for when you should not fly?
A lot of people they call it a general rule of three. And so it's like, if it's like three things bad happen or inconveniencing happen, a lot of people won't go after that. Like, oh, I arrived 15 minutes late for my flight. That's one strike. Forgot this one thing on my walk around. That's two strikes, right? So some people use those. I don't use that personally. I look at weather's a big one. A lot of people die just flying into weather that they could have seen. Because Nav Canada, they publish a ton of forecasts for us pilots to look at and kind of give us about 12 hours into the future look.
Mhm.
So we can decide whether or not the weather's going to be a factor that day. And some people don't really look at that or don't have a firm grasp of the kind of weather reports and what they're seeing.
Mhm.
And so weather's probably the big one. And the other thing is just like a lot of people get comfortable flying broken airplanes.
Mhm.
And
When you say broken airplanes, what does that mean?
well, like one thing is broken on it, but it doesn't like affect the airworthiness of the
Okay.
aircraft. And
Mhm.
then it slowly cascades, right? Because first it's this thing, then it's the next thing, and then all of a sudden you have 40 things that are failed that
Mhm.
don't really. It's just like if you keep running a tight ship, like if you keep like taking the rust off the ship as it's going, then it's not going to eat a hole through the air or through the hull of the ship, right? If you keep polishing the rust off and keep the protective layer on there, then you have more time that it has to kind of eat through to sink your ship than if you just let it build.
I've heard that a lot of plane crashes are due to human error, or majority of them. They're just human error.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I think it's 2012 report was I think it's 96% of
Mhm.
fatal accidents were caused by human error.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also just watched the movie Flight with Denzel
With
Washington.
Denzel Washington.
Yeah. Bro, like that was. What do you think of that movie?
It's actually a very good movie.
Yeah.
Well, the crash actually is based off of a real crash. The
Mhm.
pilots weren't on drugs or alcohol, but
The pilots weren't.
they were not. But the same failure to make it like the elevator failure for it to nose down, it was a real Alaskan Airlines flight
Wow.
from like Mexico up to Seattle or Alaska or something.
Okay.
And they had that jack screw fail on them, and they nosedived into the ocean. They didn't save it, but
Oh wow.
but that failure was based off of that. The other thing that it really gives a good look into is the state of mental health in aviation and addiction. The regulatory bodies, Direct Transport Canada or the FAA down in the States, they don't really have any way for you to be kind of mentally ill or depressed at all and ever hold a medical certification ever again. So a lot of us say that no pilots have substance abuse issues and no pilots have ever been sad in their life. Because if you've ever been prescribed like an SSRI, it's extremely hard to get a medical certification
Really?
in order to fly. Yeah.
And that's still to this day, 2024. That's
To
still
this
kind
day.
of the paradigm that they follow.
They're just starting to kind of fast track people to getting their medicals if they've been prescribed Adderall before.
Oh.
So it's slowly going in the right direction.
But then you just have pilots that hide their prescriptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then when they get caught, it's a whole controversy and they could possibly get fired.
Yeah.
Why not just accept these people that they do have problems? Because they're just human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and we see that actually. This guy down in the States, United guy, he felt he was getting sad or depressed or something, and he actually took himself out of flight service. Like he said, I'm medically invalid, got treatment for it, got back into kind of a flight ready condition, and he wanted to come back to work, and the FAA said, no, you can't actually, your medical's invalid.
Wow.
And then we see a guy that intentionally crashed a plane for clicks on YouTube that was cleared to fly less than a year after.
Clicks on it just for to go viral.
Yeah,
Wow.
and now he's in jail now. He got indicted for that, but
What a guy.
yeah.
Go anything to go viral, eh?
No, it really was. Yeah, it wasn't even his plane, and then he destroyed the evidence too. He chopped the plane up afterwards. And
Really?
yeah.
Well, didn't go as planned. Uh, I've been on multiple uh, plane rides, and
Hmm.
what it does to my body from the switching time zones and just the cramped. I've never flown first class, can't afford it.
Hmm.
I do not feel rested. The longest flight I've done was 14 hours, something like approximately.
Okay.
Do not feel rested, man. Even though it's
Definitely
just
not.
all you can do there is just sit lay down. I feel cramped and watching movies and sure I sleep a lot, but I don't feel rested.
Hmm.
And my circadian rhythm is just blown,
Was destroyed.
shot,
Yeah.
and it takes me a couple more days to recover, maybe a week, depending on where I'm going or where I'm getting back from.
Hmm.
I can't imagine what it must be like for pilots, right? It must be
Yeah.
probably worse because that's their main job,
Yeah. Consistently.
just their circadian rhythm, just constantly getting shot and
Hmm.
different time zones. Now, what are some ways that pilots alleviate that burden?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people that cross multiple time zones. A lot of them, a good gym routine is a good way to kind of
Mhm,
exert yourself if you're not tired after a flight, right? To get the mandatory rest. The other thing that the regulators have been very, very good at is
mhm,
mandated time off. So I haven't read the regulation in a while, but there's this graph and it breaks down to, oh, if you jump 7 time zones from your home base where you're acclimatized to. So like
mhm,
I think it's if you're somewhere for like a week, you're
mhm,
acclimatized to that time zone.
mhm,
And then, yeah, like if you go X amount of hours up forward or back from there,
mhm.
you have to have so many hours off. So like for a transatlantic flight, like if you're gonna fly from here to Germany, basically the crew needs 24 hours like off in
Mhm.
Germany before they can step back on a flight deck and operate coming back home. And
Oh
same
wow.
thing when they come back home, if they've been gone long enough to acclimatize to that time zone.
Okay. Well, it's good that they have regulations to get around
Yeah,
the fatigue and the short circadian rhythm.
yeah.
Uh, what goes into planning a flight?
Lots of stuff here, like up at the airlines, because that's what a lot of people see there. There's a whole team working on the back end, right? So your dispatcher,
Mhm,
they're filing a flight plan with ATC services, especially if
mhm,
you're crossing a border, you need one. So there's people doing that. The ground crews kind of putting the aircraft together. Um, the pilots up at the airline level, they just sign off to finalize it, but they've
mhm,
done it enough times that you just have to look it over. But we look at our fuel load, how much we're going to burn, and then we look at a lot of the weather reports. So
mhm,
what's published for us is all the air masses. We can see all of
mhm,
Canada on the air masses, and we can see kind of what the lows and highs are doing, and then you can see if there's a cold front or a warm front, and what weather you get associated with that.
mhm,
And then we start to look at something called the upper winds, which is just like these prevailing winds of the day, where like it might be calm down here, but 4,000 feet above us, like the wind can be going 80 kilometers west.
mhm.
So and then you calculate your fuel burn into there. So it's a lot of math and data crunching, which thank God for technology because it does it
Yeah.
automatically for us these days.
Uh, man, that's beautiful. There's so many things that need to be taken accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
There's the weather that you have to
Mm-hmm.
check the fuel. You have to check whether everything, every
Yeah.
little detail is working, and everybody needs to work together
Yeah.
for just one flight.
Yeah. Just for
Yeah,
one flight.
yeah, and that's why I trust planes, man, because I know
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people that do care about the safety, that do follow the rules,
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard that it's safer to fly in a plane than drive a car. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the death per mile is extremely low. I can't remember the exact
Yeah.
stat, but like
Because I've met some people and they're terrified of flying.
Hmm.
Like it's the worst thing ever. They say, oh, it's driving is a lot more dangerous. So
Yeah.
yeah, chill.
It's about the most dangerous thing an average person will ever do. Think about it. You're driving a 2,000 pound vehicle
Hmm.
at 100 kilometers an hour down the road.
Yeah.
Monkeys were never meant to go that fast.
Actually, I was watching okay, maybe not 100 kilometers per hour, but this monkey, I think somewhere in Asia, like was riding a motorcycle, and he stopped the motorcycle and like tried to kidnap this kid, this like little 4-year-old on the side.
Oh yeah, this is the
You
one
ever
where he
seen
grabs out and
Yeah, yeah.
tries to blink
I
him.
was just watching that last night because I saw a clip of Elon Musk. Like they were talking about consciousness, and like Joe Rogan just inserts like, you seen that clip of the monkey, and Elon Musk? Yeah, I've seen that one. I don't know, dude. It's so random, but I love that video.
Well, that
Um,
video's funny.
um, when you mention technology, what technological advancements do you think will have the biggest impact on the future of aviation?
That's really hard to narrow down to one thing. I was thinking about it in the shower this morning, and
Mhm.
probably at the end of the day, it'll be our emissions or our emissions or our power plants that we put on the aircraft
Okay.
there.
Pollution?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah, right. Because everybody's trying to go net zero right now, and I mean the safest, most reliable way that we have right now for jet aircraft is these big turbofan jet engines on them,
Mhm.
and I think the data's skewed because like I think all the aircraft in the world I think account for about 11% of our greenhouse gases
Really?
worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot, but they are incredibly efficient. Like if you break it down to per person, like your gas mileage is like 3 times what your car is.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like something like 70 to 80 miles per gallon per seat
Mhm.
for your fuel efficiency. So it's about 3 times more efficient than your car, but there's just so much of it that it's
Mhm.
it's polluting. So there's a lot of people. Some people are trying to do hydrogen powered stuff in the aircraft.
But then the cost,
That's right.
right? Yeah.
That's the thing.
Like
It's
nobody's
very
gonna be,
cost prohibitive to do
yeah,
that.
because nobody's gonna be paying 5 grand to go to the country, right? It's just
Yeah.
it's too much. Nobody can afford that. Um, what are the biggest challenges you face in aviation today?
The biggest challenges that we face, well, that I face personally, is weather right now. I'm a fair weather pilot right now. I'm not instrument rated, so there's a lot big time in the world, or there's a big time of the year where I can't fly because it's too cold, or because there's clouds, or it's too windy. I'm just not operating at that level. In terms of other challenges that a lot of people face, the industry as a whole, um, I'd probably just say it's just cost prohibitive to fly now. To start out,
And what do you mean by that?
it's very expensive. Like if you wanted to become a commercial pilot, get 250 hours, and all your ratings would be good to work, it's going to cost you 95 to $100,000,
Wow.
and 2 years of your time at least. If you're going to do it self-paced or go through a program, is usually what it'll be.
Yeah.
So it's quite expensive to start, and then to like own your own airplane. Like a Cessna back in the day was like $20,000, and it was
What is a Cessna?
like just a standard trainer aircraft, a single engine high wing.
And you need a stretch of land to be able to a place to
Yeah.
to have that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or you can pay an airport, but then it's more operating cost.
Mhm.
But these things were 20 grand back in the day, which I guess adjusted for inflation is probably closer to 50 or $60,000. But now like
Wow.
you have to buy a 50-year-old airplane that's got 20,000 hours on the airframe. It's like clapped out, and it's 110 to 120,000 Canadian.
Mm. Our mutual friend actually, Bryce
Yeah.
Kiddick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he tells me all about flying and how he has to put in X amount of hours, and
Hmm.
they're long hours, man. They're a
Yeah.
lot. And the expenses, and on top of that, it's not like the traditional, if you go into to get your degree for business, or if you go to education or nursing,
Hmm.
even I'd say law, like it's just so clear and it's very conventional.
Yeah.
But pilot school, it's very unconventional, and that you don't even
Yeah.
need your high school diploma for that, right? You can just start.
Yeah, you can just
Yeah,
start.
you
It's
can just
just all
start at like
licensing.
16. Yeah,
But all your employers can require a diploma.
fair.
But I do know what you're saying. Like you don't need one of those to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, aviation's kind of surprising where like
Mm-hmm.
there's an overarching structure, but there's no like individual structure. A
Yeah.
lot of people, it's a go on your own path type thing.
I'm surprised. Why don't they have a degree for like?
We're starting
Yeah,
to like
starting to.
I'm in the third or the fourth program in the country that has it. Right, I'm in an
Okay.
ATPL program. It's called the Airline Transport
Oh,
Pilots
awesome.
License Program.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a 2 year diploma, and we
Mm-hmm.
have hopes to move it to a degree in the future,
Mm-hmm.
into a 4 year degree. But right now it's a diploma, and we give you all your licenses and ratings except for your airline license. So you write your airline like exams, your written exams, your knowledge stuff, and then you have 5 years to get like the minimum hour requirements for your airline license.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the first of its kind in the country, and so we're starting to have it a little more structured. But we're also finding that like in the second semester it's time building. You just need to get a huge chunk of time, so it's not structured anymore. It was structured in the first semester to get everybody their private pilot's licenses, which I already had mine, so I didn't fly much anyways. But in the second semester it was like, okay, build a plan on how you're going to make 50 hours, be free. And
Yeah.
like they just send you off,
Yeah.
and if I want to fly to the middle of nowhere, Alberta, for
Mm-hmm.
2 hours away and come back, I can do that if it makes me happy.
And you really have to be the person to be accountable for yourself, right? You need to be
Mm-hmm.
able to set goals, set a timeline,
Mm-hmm.
because in this day and age where there's just constant stimulation, you wanna just I'll do it after this one YouTube video, I'll do it
Yeah.
after this movie, for pilot, like what type of person should be a pilot?
Someone that can, well, to put it bluntly, somebody that can just suck it up and read.
Hmm.
Um, that's the biggest thing that I'm finding in aviation is you just have to read, and you have to read constantly. I have a stack of textbooks this high at home
Yeah,
that I need to know all of them by May,
constantly
the end
just
of May.
flipping through it.
Through it, yeah, there's weather theory, there's theory of flight, there's air law. Air law makes you want to bang your head against the wall, but you have to know it. Like you just have to know the laws that you have to follow, right? So a lot of it's reading. You get a lot of student pilots that come in and they ask you something like, "Oh, what's the crosswind limitation on this airplane?"
Mhm.
And I just tell them at this point. I said, "I don't know. What does your POH say, which is your pilot operating handbook? It's the instruction manual for the airplane."
Mhm.
And so they go, "Well, what's this?" And I go, "I don't know. What does the POH say? Or how do I fly this maneuver? I don't know. Have you read your flight training
You
manual?
gotta put in
Because
the work.
it'll tell you exactly how to
Mhm.
do this maneuver if you open your book."
Hmm. You can clearly tell a person who has
Mm-hmm.
been diligent with their studying
Mm-hmm.
versus a person who shows up there and half-asses it.
Oh, you can see it. You can
Yeah,
see it on the instructors too. Like
yeah,
they look visibly distressed when they're showing up to send one of their guys solo and they're not prepared. They're like,
yeah.
"Well,
Because that's on them.
we'll see how this flight goes, I guess."
Yeah, and you can tell it's visible on their eye,
Mm-hmm.
their eye contact, and
Yeah.
kind of the way their body posture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's unprepared.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not good, man. Because then you don't, especially if it's a leader position,
Mm-hmm.
you don't trust them anymore,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like this is such an important thing for with any leadership position where you
For
do your
sure.
subordinates needs to be able to look up to you and trust you,
Yeah.
and if they don't serve you right, then should they be in that position,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's what I say with my dad actually. Him and I
Yeah,
were talking about this the other
yeah,
day. It's like, so, you can get somebody gets 60s through their pilot's license, like bare minimum, and they're rated to be a pilot, and they could probably do a good job. But the guy that got 90%, 95% on their stuff, like if both your engines quit or your single engine quits and you need to put it down, I'd rather have the 90%er
yeah,
rather than the 60%er, just because they probably have more tools in their toolbox.
Yeah,
to,
knowledge.
To help you survive rather than the guy that just kind of skirted by, right?
They're the person that's willing to go the extra mile. Like, well, that person that got the 60% just maybe kind of partied, in the days where he should have been studying. Maybe on the days where he should have been reading his textbook, he indulged in a movie. Versus the guy who's getting 90s, he's the one that, even though there's a party there, even if there's some short-term gratification that's presented to him, no, he stayed with his work because he's clearly passionate about it, and he wants it better than the guy who's 60.
Yeah,
Right?
I agree.
I love that idea of a meritocracy. And
yeah.
The harder you work for something, the better the outcome will be. It's so simple.
Yeah.
As cheesy as that is, yeah,
no,
that's it.
That's just what it is.
For culinary, for aviation, for education, for
really anything.
Anything.
Really anything. If you put in the bare minimum, like you can get 60%. I find the last 40%, it's just all nuance. And the only way that you're going to understand nuance is just reading and studying and experiencing. It's the only way that you're going to get that last 40%.
Yeah, that's awesome.
On any testing score.
For a person that wants to get started and they want to take the initial steps to become a pilot, how would you advise them?
Send it. No.
Send it?
Yeah.
Just go.
If you want to send it, I will say that I saved up over 50% of the cost, the estimated cost of a private pilot's license before I started. So I saved up $10,000 before I did it. That way you just have the surplus of cash. But I was also working full time on the other side of it, so I still had cash coming in. For right now, a PPL is going to cost you $15,000 to $20,000 to start. Pick up a textbook though. Textbook's $100. You're going to need to know the knowledge anyways, and you're going to understand what you're doing a lot more if you read the textbook. But other than that, like, book a flight with somebody, and just kind of start doing your training flight. Like, the way to start is just to start, and that's you rent a plane and you take a flight, and if you like it, you like it.
Did you go on Google, or did you go and talk to someone?
No, I went on to Google. Well, so I was with the cadets, so I did what they call a FAM flight, or a familiarization flight.
Okay.
And just what the cadets were renting from was a company called Nemeo Flying Club out of Villeneuve, which is just west of St. Albert. And after that, I did that flight. It was awesome. When I went to go looking at flying, I just searched up Nemeo Flying Club because it was the only one that I knew. And they had a discovery flight, so I did a discovery flight with a nice lady called Sarah. And yeah, she took me up, flew me all the way over here to Sherwood Park, gave me control for a bit, and went back. And that's just kind of how you start, right?
It's amazing. It's crazy to think that we were just in grade 4 at one point, and we were just playing Roblox, and now you're in actual, you're flying planes. You're up there, up to 1,000 to 10,000 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What would you So you said you saved up a bunch of money, and you had worked as a screening officer for
that's correct.
A couple years?
Yeah, close to 2 years by the time.
Okay. Can you tell me about that experience?
Yeah, it was fun. Well, after high school, I worked retail a couple of years. A company called Fire and Flower, so I helped pioneer the cannabis industry. And when I decided that I wanted to fly, because cannabis and flying don't mix, so I decided to separate myself from there. So I was looking for jobs at the international airport, and the security job was the highest paying starting wage. So I'd applied, and I got in, and I went in there, and well, it was fun. It was very, very structured, and you're the bad guy, right? You're an officer, so you're the bad guy. It was very weird for me going.
Very cynical when they look at you. It's like they're mad.
Yeah. Oh, every day, mean mugging every day. And what was weird is it's usually the older guys. It's like these old white guys that are like, "I'm not a terrorist. Why are you searching my bag?" And I'm like,
yeah, I'm not. I got nothing to hide, man. Why me? What about that guy?
That someone just said that before.
Yeah. Really.
What about that guy? And they point at like some brown guy. And I'm like,
Really?
Jesus Christ, bro.
It's okay. I'm just picturing fucking Harold and Kumar, like the airport. You ever watch
Yeah.
that movie? I'm just picturing my Indian friend, like getting pointed at, like Shiva. Shiva's like, what the fuck? Sorry, that's just. I love Shiva. Like, I'm not racist. I just, it's just a funny thought.
That's funny. I could see Shiva's
Yeah,
expression
yeah.
being like,
I'd defend Shiva. Like, if I was there and some guy pointed at Shiva about. So, what the how do you deal with suspicious individuals?
discreetly. So
Yeah.
you try, if you're suspicious of something, you try not to alert everybody to it, right? So actually, a lot of our stuff is handled pretty low key. Like multiple times throughout the day, somebody might think that they have a bomb in their bag.
Actually?
Yeah, well, because so our regulators they do penetration testing, so they'll send somebody through with it looks exactly like an explosive, but it's inert, so it won't explode. But then like it'll be over like on line 4 that some guys down at bag search being like, oh, I have an IED in my bag. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
So now we got this whole thing
So,
that we're doing
For the
behind it.
viewers that don't know what an IED is.
It's a improvised explosive device. So it's a terrorist made explosive.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so like a couple times throughout the day you'll have
It'll shock you.
a lookalike IED come through, and or you'll have the big one is knives, like huge knives.
Why are people bringing knives?
They forgot it in their bag.
Really?
That's the most common excuse I get.
Like switchblades or the kitchen knives.
Kitchen knives,
Yeah.
like big, huge hunting buck knives.
You guys just confiscate it?
Yeah. Well, so you get 3 options, right? It's either you can just leave it with me and I'll destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
You can go check your bag and it'll go in the cargo hold where you can't get it and take it wherever you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can go put it back in your car or give it to a family member that's not flying.
Okay.
There's your 3 options. Like, I can't just be like, this is mine, I'm taking it.
But I've seen that like for the liquids, man. You guys just take them. You guys took my toothpaste, bro. No, really, man.
Did you read the regulations?
I did, man. It said 100 millimeters, or not millimeters, milliliters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the container it said 250, but inside it was like a quarter full.
So yeah, that's chance.
Yeah. So. Yeah, please, man. I need to brush my teeth. Like, I don't have any toothpaste. I don't want to spend. I got no money. Like, no. It was just like
not going.
Yeah, and this guy like looked like I'm not the first person he's kind of like I dealt with that day. He's like, I'm sure if he could cuss, he probably would have said fuck no. No, like yeah, it just looked like he's dealt with a lot of people. And there's this other lady that that was in front of me, and all her goodies got taken. Like all her, she stored meats in her backpack.
Oh, rip.
Yeah, and so like, they look expensive. There's a lot of them, so it had not been cheap, and they just got. She just saw him get tossed into the garbage. Yeah, man.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's the problem, that it's subjective, right? Each agent's subjective. I mean, you're supposed to follow SOPs, but
yeah.
I probably would have let your toothpaste go.
Yeah.
It's a quarter full. Yeah, it's less than 100. Yeah. 75 mils. But people don't think that way, though.
Yeah. Why is that? Why aren't we allowed to store more than 100 milliliters of liquids?
Because some guy brought through a shaving cream that was 350 grams, packed full of Semtex explosive on a timer, and put it under his seat after his flight, and then exploded the aircraft. 747 aircraft, downed it, killing 300 people.
When was this?
20 years ago, 25 years ago.
And because of that.
Yeah.
Regulation is
transport or the regulator powers that be deem that 100 grams or less of an explosive isn't enough to really seriously destroy an aircraft, for sure.
That's what I've realized. For every single regulation that gets instilled, there was a horror story for almost every one of them.
Yeah.
Like, I was working at McDonald's, and There's this area that we had to clean up like every night. It was like at like 9,
Mm-hmm.
and like I was happy. It was a good time. Clean that up at that time. But then someone complained. This Karen, man, somebody came in and, oh my God, why is it closed at 9? Like ripping you on. The manager sent an email, was relentless about it. Horror story.
Mm-hmm.
So now instead of 9 where I mop it up and I go home, it's at 10, and now I don't even have time to. Okay, this is like I'm trying to connect it, but like
No,
there's
no.
always a horror. Like
There's
maybe
always
not
a
to the
story.
extent where there's an actual terrorist. But freaking man, I still remember I was so pissed. She was relentless, and she was
Yeah.
freaking Karens, man.
No,
Well,
there's almost a reason for
Mhm.
every rule.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
always a story.
Yeah. Are there good tips to those who are traveling to help them through security?
Yeah. Actually, I taught Adri this the other day.
Yeah.
Because he flies a lot, and he's
He
like, I
does.
always get
He
bag
doesn't
search.
he doesn't really talk about it though. Like, see, I don't know.
We
I
were just in
find-
the Discord, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
came up.
Yeah.
And he always gets searched, and for the first time ever, he realized that he had to take the liquids in his plastic bag outside of his backpack.
Oh, he didn't know that.
He didn't know that.
Freaking guy, man. That guy.
So for you folks, take your liquids bag
Yeah.
outside of your actual baggage that you're
Or else
carrying.
it's gonna get flagged.
That's a rule.
Yeah. He didn't know that, and that guy's been on many flights. He's been to everywhere in Europe, and
Yeah.
he's been in the U.S. a bunch, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's ridiculous. And bring your laptops out too. That might be changing soon, but
Why do we need to bring the laptops?
it's
Another terrorist?
another terrorist. No, it's hard. So
Yeah.
what's in here right now is very, very complex.
Okay.
You got the entire motherboard, you got
Yeah.
batteries, down
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You got the keyboard and all the components on there. So
Mm-hmm.
inside of a bag, it all just like gets masked. So like because it blends in with your clothes and other zippers and the change that's in there, so you can't really tell what's inside this computer. So you put it alone so that I can get a good picture and decide whether or not your laptop's going to explode.
Wow, that's intense.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, man. There's so many things that go into security.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember how lax it once was, but every year it seems to get more and more intense
Yeah.
because people keep finding ways of getting around the system.
Yeah.
And each and every year, there's always a story.
There's always somebody breaching,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's right.
That's good.
That's the problem with being some sort of enforcement is you're always reacting to what the bad guys do first,
Mhm.
right? We can't be proactive. If you're proactive, you're infringing upon people's rights.
Mhm.
So we have to be reactive
Yeah.
because after somebody blows a plane up, a lot more people are more willing to let this happen
Mhm.
so that they don't blow up on their way to Mexico,
Mhm.
right? But it's very hard to justify it. It's actually very hard to justify security now. A lot of people in a post 9/11 world are like, it's been 20 years since 9/11. Like,
Mhm.
can we move on?
Mhm.
And, I can't tell it to them because customer service, but I like to tell them, yeah, why do you think we haven't had a 9/11 in 23 years? Because before 9/11, every year, every couple of years, a plane would get hijacked. It just wouldn't crash into buildings, but it'd get hijacked. And a plane's not been hijacked since,
Mhm.
right? So it's catch-22 as they go, well, nothing happened. Why does this thing exist? Well,
Of course.
maybe this thing or nothing has happened because this thing existed. So you're never gonna know.
It's terrible, just the things that have happened because of just lapses in the security.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great that there are systems in place now to prevent horrific
Mm-hmm.
incidents like 9/11, right? And
Yeah.
it's terrible that day. Yeah, terrible. So, can you tell me about your favorite parts about being a screening officer?
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Uh, Probably, well, it's structured. It is great. My shifts were the exact same for 6 months at a
Mhm.
time. So it was fun to get structure like that. Probably some of my favorite parts is like I'd start at 4. I was a 4 a.m. start guy.
Mhm.
And like I'd be there a couple hours, 5:36, get my first break,
Yeah.
6:30. And you're
And that's all the way from Sherwood Park.
yeah,
So you'd have to wake up at like 3 a.m.
2:30.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd be there. I'd wake up 2:30 on the road, 3:15 in the checkpoint for 4.
Early bird gets the worm, my friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's no cars, so
Yeah. Yeah.
you could go
So you
pretty
zoom.
fast on the
Yeah.
Henday and
Uh,
Highway 2. But
mhm.
yeah, the workforce was very fun. The younger part of the workforce was very fun. A lot of good conversations.
Mhm.
In terms of my favorite story, probably after I got a certification called MPSV, which is non-passenger screening for vehicles. So
Mhm.
I'd screen catering trucks, fuel trucks,
Mhm.
the pushback tows and baggage cards. Like I'd screen all that stuff coming out of what we call the critical area, so the private sector into the terminal area. And probably my favorite part was about that was when you're not screening anybody, you're on the ramp. So like I could just
Mhm.
watch airplanes land all day or take off all day. And
Mhm.
some of my favorite parts was like 5 a.m. The sun's creeping up, the sky's red, and you got like this one
Mhm.
lone Air Canada flight, just like,
Mhm.
and well, actually, the coolest thing, actually, I'm gonna change this. Coolest thing is when you get out there, 4 in the morning where nothing's moving yet, and it's silent. You don't hear any of the
Mhm.
APUs on the aircraft going. You don't hear any of the engines going.
Mhm.
It's like you hear the birds chirping, and it's really cool because as the sun comes up, you start to hear like the whistle from all the aircraft, like the, and you hear that, and all of a sudden there's fuel trucks everywhere, catering trucks everywhere, and you're watching this like chaotic environment just like come to life from like standstill
Mhm.
20 minutes ago. So,
Mhm.
yeah, very very
Beautiful.
cool to watch the airport wake up.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Like I just before everything starts, you see the stillness, and then as everything just slowly comes to life, like the
Mm-hmm.
sun, the birds, and things
Mm-hmm.
are flying in, and it gets really busy,
Yeah.
and then it cycles again, and you have that every day. And just the thing with structure is just it's. I'm a firm believer of order is the antidote to chaos, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Peterson had said that. And
Mm-hmm.
just when everything's in place, when you have a set in routine and you
Mm-hmm.
just keep following it, and you see just how liberating that is, right? I feel like
Yeah.
that a lot of for flying, for security, it's like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's very
Mm-hmm.
regular, which it is fun.
What does it mean to hold oneself accountable? And what does it matter to you?
Yeah, well, holding yourself accountable. I'll give you a circular definition. It's, holding yourself, you got to make sure that you're making good decisions and that you're doing what you need to do and, you know, fulfilling all of the duties that you have to do. What does it mean for me or why does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote this more so in terms of like discipline for the career choice that I picked is like certain things like in high school I used to dabble a little bit in weed and
Mm-hmm.
everything or drink at parties and stuff. Now I don't drink that much and I don't smoke at all, and that's where the accountability aspect comes in because you can get away with it. Like I know people that smoke and get away with it and it's whatever, but like the rule says you can't smoke, so you have to be accountable because it doesn't seem like it matters now because you're flying yourself around, but at one point you're going to be carrying 150 people. You're going to be responsible for 150 lives
Mm-hmm.
at any given time in an airplane. So you can't go out drinking the night before. You can't relax on your emergency procedures or what's going on inside the aircraft. You can't even, get a poor grade in school because at the end of the day, hundreds of people at one time rely on you to get them to where they're going safely. And
Families.
yeah, families. And generally it all goes well, but every once in a while something crazy goes on. The engine fails. You got to be on your game because the action report that comes out after that, if they say it's your fault, then it's your fault. And if you survive, you're never gonna live with yourself killing 100 people, right?
You were this person that was indulging in drinks and smoking all the time and
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have a sense of path. Once you found flying and you
Mm-hmm.
picked that and you're passionate about it, all the bad decisions that you've made,
Mm-hmm.
it became clear that they were bad. And now in retrospect, you realize that those things were not right for you. And now you've
Mm-hmm.
chosen a path of accountability and
Mm-hmm.
authenticity. And you place other people's lives as a way of catalyzing your knowledge and your
Mm-hmm.
learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that's beautiful, man. A lot of there's that purpose that's instilled in you
Mm-hmm.
because you're gonna be doing a lot of flying and you're clearly passionate about it and you're willing to go that extra mile. And I'm very proud of you.
Thanks, man.
You've come a long way. And
Mm-hmm.
dude, it's amazing to see stories like you
Mm-hmm.
because on the flip side, I know people. We went to middle school, elementary, middle school, high school
Mm-hmm.
that didn't find that
Yeah.
drive and
Mm-hmm.
that kept smoking all the time. They kept drinking,
Mm-hmm.
and now they don't have that structure. They don't have that
Mm-hmm.
routine, and it's terrible because
Mm-hmm.
I see some people with so much potential, and it's squandered.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah. And it's
Mhm.
especially if I'm with smoking, it's such a mental block.
Mhm.
Like I when I quit smoking, I realized that like what it really was doing was sedating me, really,
Mhm.
because like when I was coming off of it, which you don't really withdraw, but like when I stopped smoking, I would just like get pissed off at like working conditions or things that weren't right that should be right, and I realized that, oh wow, like this,
Mhm.
the effect that it has on me is that it would just sedate and numb me from what was going on, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden I'm off of it, and I'm awake to all these things. So it's there's a clarity that comes with just even taking a break that really helped me solidify my decision.
Mhm.
It's just crazy just what substances do when they grasp you mentally, and you don't know how it really affects you until you're off of it,
Mhm.
right? So like I'm excited. I'm trying to quit nicotine, and it's not going very well. But
Bro, it took me 2 years. I'm now 570 days clean
okay,
from vape
nice.
nicotine. But before that, it was just agony. I couldn't stop. And
Yeah.
then now I've quit drinking now. I've quit smoking, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just quitting those substances because they have such a hold on you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so it's so debilitating
Mm-hmm.
to have these substances control your decisions.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's days from I remember when I was just it was difficult and like things got really stressful and I was questioning myself and I was questioning my actions and
Mm-hmm.
am I in control? Why am I getting controlled by vaping, by
Yeah.
weed, by alcohol?
Yeah.
And it becomes very clear that I'm not in control. It's to be
Yeah.
able to accept that and to
Mm-hmm.
seek help and find ways and talk to people. That's where I think relationships are great.
Yeah. I
And
think
yeah,
definitely.
uh, let us talk about how to maintain relationships in the new age.
Yeah,
So
maintaining relationships in this day and age. It's
in high school, it was easy, man. We had a
yeah.
schedule and
What we were just talking about there, right? Like
Mhm,
you'd see them every day, so it was easy to,
mhm.
keep up to date with them. And once you graduate, all that goes away.
Structure.
Now, social media has been good in that aspect. Like,
Mhm,
well, you and I just reconnected
mhm,
through, that social that you had at Adri's place. So
mhm.
it was
That's
good to
great.
see a bunch of people,
Mhm,
but the only other people I saw from high school really in a in a kind of friends hangout session is just like Andrew, Jack, Tyson, Sean, and Cole, right? The guys that I call them the gamer guys because we just always game together. So we're just on Discord together.
Yeah, no, I always hear Jack and Andrew tell me a bunch of stories about, oh, Morgan's doing this, Tyson's doing this.
Yeah.
Because you guys are constantly on Discord.
Yeah, because we're on, and so that has been a very good avenue to kind of stay linked to each other, especially like Sean is over in Ontario, right? In he's going to university, and now he's in the military, so he's out over there.
It's incredible.
So, but you still see him or talk to him, weekly.
That's great.
So yeah, social media has been good at kind of keeping that, but also on the other side of it, I'm not sure if you still do stuff like this, but I'm on Snapchat. I hate Snapchat, but I'm addicted to it.
I'm addicted to Instagram.
But like the problem is that I end up there's people that I haven't talked to forever.
Yeah.
That
hit them up and
like I haven't said anything to these two people, and I have an almost 300-day streak with them. Just blank pictures.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is that like, well, can you even call that a relationship?
I've actually in the past I always did captionless pics, and I think my highest streak was like over 1,000.
Jeez.
But then I realized this last year, because I think last year was the final year where I sent captionless pics to people, and I realized it doesn't actually add anything to the relationships, nor does it keep me connected.
Yeah, exactly.
So I stopped. I just fully stopped, and people were like, "We took it the wrong way," and they went, "Oh, why'd you stop talking?" No, we weren't talking.
Yeah.
We were not talking.
That's just it. We were trading data, but that's about it.
Yeah, and like faces. And
yeah.
I feel like even texting for an hour can be consolidated in 5 minutes talking. That's what I realized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, you text, and then you start, and then you put your phone down. You text. But talking to someone face to face, like right now, this is probably worth like 24 hours of texting, probably a week of texting.
Yeah, for sure.
And like, especially up front, right? And when you're up front talking to someone face to face rather than just a phone call, you get to see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? In their eyes and their body language, who they are. And that's where I think relationships are so important.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it helps us feel grounded. It helps us feel connected. Our problems aren't just our problems. We got friends there. Like you said, on Discord, these guys are constantly there for you. Well, whether it just be gaming or you just want to have a casual talk, or if you want to plan out things, they're there. And that's the beauty of just the gaming and the online space.
Well, you're also building a support system, right? So if you need help, it's there.
Yeah.
Generally we just play games, but there's been a couple of times where like the group is banded together because somebody that's going through a rough time, right? So that's the biggest thing, right? Is your support structure that you're building, and we're all building support structures all the time, right? Or the support systems, and that's what maintaining a relationship. But really, I guess the paramount thing behind it is just so you have people you can rely on, whether it's for good times or for like actual emotional support, or you need some guy.
The premise to this podcast, or even my being, this podcast is like an extension of who I am, and it's to let people know that they're not alone, that it is okay to be vulnerable, that it is okay to have problems, that you do need friends, you need family to, on those days where it's dark and you can't see any light around you, somebody is there, and you can get out of it. And sure, maybe the hole may be deep, but somebody can hoist down a ladder so you can climb back up.
Yeah.
How do you maintain your relationships? I know you've mentioned Discord, you've mentioned social media. How do you stay on top of how your buddies are doing and your family?
Yeah. Well, a majority of my primary relationships are at school. One of my good friends at the moment is he's my actual flight instructor. So just showing up to school and to work, because I work at the hangar as well as a dispatcher. So showing up on those days, I can see a lot of my, my close group, this current close group at the time. So just showing up, doing things. But additionally, we also, we go for wings every once in a while, right? It's like it's taking time out of your day to set aside time to kind of, maintain your relationship or build it just by spending time with the guys and just going out for a chat, right? That's a big thing. Is a lot of I find myself, especially after COVID, is very hard because, well, I'm being socially responsible by not going out anywhere. So then I became a hermit type thing, right? And so it's very easy to fall back into that. We're like, oh, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out. But going out with your friends is what's maintaining a relationship, or it can be a great asset in maintaining a relationship or building one, right? So a lot of people, I know some days I have to, fight my social battery that feels drained after a week of school or something. But then when I get out there, I'm having fun, having a great time with the team.
You're rejuvenated after. Well, before you said you had put in the hours for school, or you don't feel quite as much going out. What ends up happening is once you show up there and you hear the stories, your buddies, you see Adji, Jack, and you see your flight instructor friend, and you see the people, and you guys talking about that brotherhood. You feel uplifted, and it's like you're recharging your battery to armor yourself for next week, for the struggles that are to come, for the challenges
that are gonna come.
Yeah, and there's a lot of struggle in the day to day. There's more struggle to go around for everyone, but I think that's to get over that struggle. That's where the beauty lies. That's where you work hard and hard and hard, and then you achieve something, and you feel great about it, and then you have your support is with you. You got your friends, right, and then you're also supporting them, and it's just a feedback loop. And one day you're gonna die, and then you're gonna look back and realize, wow, the relationships, they helped me get through the toughest of times. But then I think these relationships are the focal point. They are the meaning.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we do, like you had mentioned, that you want to keep working hard because lives depend on you. You are a pilot, and you are in charge of these very serious endeavor, because it could possibly crash, and you need to up your game constantly. You need to improve, and you need to be aware. Right? And I think even in relationships, that's also a key essential aspect. You are responsible for your friends in a way, right? Like if somebody is mentally ill, somebody goes through death of a loved one, you need to be there for them. I think that's 100%. Just presence. Even if you don't know how to talk to them, right? Your presence is imperative to their healing. What do these connections mean to you?
I think you're right when you're saying like being present helps people heal or helps them through a hard time. Yeah, I mean it's a catch-22 though, right? Like I think it was COVID, somewhere in COVID 4 years ago or something. Like one of my good friends ended up, killing himself. And
I'm sorry to hear, man.
no, that's okay. It's just like, well, you wonder, right? Like, oh well, if I'd hung out with him, 2 weeks ago when he'd asked me to hang out, could that have prevented that, right? Like so when you say that, being there, being that's, just being a support for your friends there, it's it really kind of hit home there, because you're right. It is, a lot of it is about just being there and just kind of helping them through some stuff there.
At the same time, you tried your best, and
that
we all have our problems, right? And while your friend was probably going through agony, and that person deemed it the best course of action to take their own life,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure that person was beautiful and capable of so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also going through problems.
Mm-hmm.
We are also going through unimaginable things, and
Mm-hmm.
we are imperfect. And
Mm-hmm.
to acknowledge that we are not perfect, and we tried our best. At the end of the day, that's all we can do.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right, and
Mhm.
I've kind of made my peace with that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of like, and then the other thing that like the connections mean to me is pretty much you said it though, right? Like
Mhm.
no matter what you're doing, really at the end of the day, it's all about people,
Mhm.
right? Like yeah, you could have a $1 billion, you could have a loaded house with 1,000 toys.
Mhm.
But if you have nobody to share it with, no family, no spouse, no children, or even just no friends
Mhm.
to kind of elevate, like as you elevate, you should bring your friends up with you,
Mhm.
right? So it's if you have nobody to share that with, then what's the point of doing it at all?
I heard this doctor in a podcast, Dr. Peter Attia, and he kind of concluded to, or he asked this question to people that didn't really want to talk to people, and
Mm-hmm.
or he painted a picture, a narrative,
Mm-hmm.
and he said that what if you maintain your quality of life right now, and but there's no people in the world. Everybody was replaced with robots, and your life would be the same. If
Mm-hmm.
anything, it'd get better, and everything would be provided for you. Your food, your water, your entertainment would be there. You could play video games. You could do
Mm-hmm.
everything you want. You probably wouldn't be unsafe anymore because there's no people to,
Mm-hmm.
ruin everything, and everything's robots. How long until that person kills themselves? Because then what would be the point?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what is the point?
Yo, what is the point? What are we doing here? And what would be the point of living if there weren't other people there?
Mm-hmm.
If everybody was just, I often think about I Am Legend too with Will Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that dog. Remember, have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I've
The
seen it.
German Shepherd.
Yeah.
Just looks so that dog was kept what kept him going.
Mm-hmm.
That the need for connection and as
And the
soon,
responsibility, right?
yeah, yeah,
Well, and that was indirectly connected to his daughter, right? Because his
yeah,
daughter gave him the dog
mhm,
minutes before
yeah,
their
yeah,
helicopter got RKO'd.
yeah. And now I remember that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's that kind of responsibility and also maybe penance
Mm-hmm.
because he probably blames himself because he put them on the chopper, right? But no, but I know what you're saying though, right? It's
Yeah,
like, well, without people, there is no point really.
yeah. We all once I've made that conclusion because all throughout high school, middle school, I was so caught up in my own problems, caught up
Mm-hmm.
in okay, me, I'm the victim, and if I'm not the victim and the main character, it was
Mm-hmm.
never about them. It was always about me. As
Mm-hmm.
soon as I kind of flipped that, okay, it's always about them. It's less about me. I feel liberated. I feel
Yeah.
like every single time I struggle,
Mm-hmm.
every single time I'm putting in sweat, blood, tears, crying, emotionally burdened,
Mm-hmm.
physically burdened, it is all worth it because the people, there are people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, you just everybody has a bad day. I noticed that too, working both my jobs, both retail and the security there. Right? Like I was always good at conflict resolution because somebody, oh fuck you, and I'd be like, yeah, you're a sad man
yeah.
and you're having a bad day.
Mhm.
That sucks.
Mhm.
But like that's why shit like that doesn't bother me anymore because same thing. I realize that it's all about them and what they're experiencing that day. I could never know what they're doing, so
Yeah,
who am I to judge, right?
that person that's throwing a fit at the security screening
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting patted down and they're angry, they're
Mm-hmm.
frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's an underlying meaning to that, right? Like maybe their daughter died, or maybe
Yeah.
they were diagnosed with a terminal illness,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe their soul is being crushed with crippling depression. You never know.
Yeah.
Or it's all the above.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to humanize that and to empathize with these people that do suffer, I think is one thing that really puts us back into the source
Mm-hmm.
of who we are meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, do you think technology has had a net positive in helping maintaining these connections? I know we talked about social media and
Mm-hmm.
gaming, but I found that there is a lot of mental illness and people
Mm-hmm.
are connecting depression and insecurity issues, and you see the people posting their highlights and
Mm-hmm.
stories of everything, and you're bombarded with all these positive things, and then when you
Mm-hmm.
look at your life, it's like, whoa, why is my life not like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think technology is doing a net positive, or do you think we should just get rid of them?
It's tough to say. I think overall in my relationships had a net
Mhm,
positive. It's been a great tool for
mhm,
it's been a great tool for staying connected. Um, that being said, there's a little bit of caution. Like it should be a proceed with caution sign on social media apps because through COVID I actually deleted all my apps. I didn't delete my
I
accounts
noticed
because I
that because I
didn't come.
used to be posting a bunch of, I used to see you all the time, and then you just
Yeah,
disappeared.
yeah. I
Mhm,
deleted
mhm.
everything, and actually that was the most tranquil like 4 months, 5 months that I had. And then I kind of got back into it. I got back into Instagram for the memes.
Mhm.
So now my feed, I've trained my algorithm where it's just memes. I don't really see anybody's personal shit.
That's great.
So there's that, and the Facebook, Instagram. The only thing I really post is just like achievements in my career, and that's not really for everybody to see. It's just well, everybody can see it, but it's just like a digital scrapbook,
Memory.
right?
Mhm,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I want to catalog all of my
mhm.
big milestones in my career or
It's
whatever.
for you. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's internalizing that, where social media is for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so sure. It's a great way to plan things with your friends, and it's a great way to, like, the high school reunion that I'm planning. It's a
Mm-hmm.
great way of bringing
Which
people
you're coming
together.
to, by the way.
Or no, I'm kidding. Or it's a great way to, like you said, there should be a manual for these things
Mm-hmm.
because it is a tool. And if
Mm-hmm.
you use a hammer to whack your nails, to whack your fingers, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And but social media, there's not really much physical pain. For sure, I
Mm-hmm.
do, like, you see a girl you like, they post a picture with the new guy. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that hurts, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's more gradual for
Mm-hmm.
social media. Is more that emotional
More
damage.
emotional damage.
Yeah, yeah, and it depends on how you use it.
Yeah.
Whether it be, because one thing that's liberated me is using this as just for me,
Mm-hmm.
memories, and I don't really, sure, I kind of indulge in it for other people,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy for you that you've kind of found that pathway where
Mm-hmm.
you don't you just focus on yourself, you focus on the people that truly matter to you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I like to just kind of, I don't want to focus too much on
Mm-hmm.
other people, but like I do still like and
Yeah,
keep
well,
up.
if I see one, I'll usually
Mhm.
like it, but I'm not like
Yeah.
seeking it out and all like,
Yeah,
what's
no, of
this
course.
person
But a
doing?
lot of people are like hours on end, right? That's why I've kind of limited my use to 30 minutes. I haven't been really diligent about that. I haven't really been on top of that. Every day, I've been, ever since I started this podcast, it's been like scrolling, like seeing like how many people view, and I shouldn't think
Mm-hmm.
about that, but it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's talk about risk.
Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest risk you've taken in your life, and what have you learned from it?
Yeah, probably the biggest risk was starting getting my pilot's license, right? Like a big monetary commitment with that when I was working a full-time job. And
Hmm.
yeah, that was probably the biggest risk. But I said whatever, I'll send it. 20,000 is 20,000. I got all the time in
This
the
is for
world to
your
make money.
passion.
Yeah, exactly.
No
So
kids,
sorry,
no kids, no wife. You are a single guy, and this is the
best time to
best
do it,
time to
right?
take that risk to jump off that cliff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just jumped into that. That was, yeah, probably the biggest risk. And actually, and then growing into that, getting my airline license, that's another huge risk, which is because the industry goes up and down, right? So like I'm trying to become a commercial pilot right as like I believe a recession's coming. So I'm trying to be a pilot right as pilot jobs are gonna drop through the floor if a recession comes. So I might spend all this money on a degree or on a diploma and licenses, and then not be able to make the money associated with it. But in the wise words of a prophet, fuck it, we ball. So I'm just gonna go and do it.
Mhm.
What I've learned from it though is that if you do what you truly love, well, one, the saying, right? Do what you love and you never work a day in your life. There's that, but like for me personally, since I'm doing what I love, it's a passion of mine. I'm driven to get good marks. And in high school, I wasn't like that. School, I was busy, you know, jerking around, being a dink. Never had the best grades. I had decent grades. I passed, but some of them were slipping towards the end of it.
Mhm.
And I wasn't too proud of my performance in high school in terms of academics. On the flip side, though, now that I found, like my passion, I'm top of the class. Like I have the highest. I'm the valedictorian right now, so like I'm trying to stay up at the top.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome. That's amazing.
So it's cool to see, right? If you're truly invested in something and you're willing to put the work in, then it pays off at the end. It pays off. So yeah, with risk, just send it, and if you're passionate about it, double send it, and
Yeah.
and don't ever let off the gas. Just keep going, because you're only gonna run away with it, right?
That just reminded me. We had a class with this guy. Been going to school with him since grade 4, and in grade 6, with this teacher named Mr. Armada, we were tasked to do a big event, uh, a big event presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy picked Chernobyl. And when this guy is passionate about something, he will take the extra mile and beyond. And this guy had like a full. Everybody's just like I remember because you went before me, and I think you were the first one. You were the first one, and you just blew it out of the water because you were so invested in it. You were just so passionate,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew everything about Chernobyl.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're the type of person. I mean, you put your mind to something, you just won't stop. You just won't stop.
Yeah.
And you'll know everything about it. Everything.
Mhm.
And you won't stop talking about it. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
And when you finally found this thing, aviation, flying,
Mm-hmm.
you're willing to take the risk and you're willing to put everything and you've planned it and you have a vision
Mm-hmm.
and you are gonna go far.
I hope so.
Yeah. Like literally too, because you're gonna really high and far.
Yeah.
Um,
Thousands of miles in a day.
What would you advise to someone that is scared of taking that leap of forward?
Um. So you got to really reflect.
Mhm.
I found it in a lot of daydreaming meditation type stuff.
Mhm.
I'd listen to like a lecture. Alan Watts. I think it's Alan
I
Watts.
love Alan Watts.
Right. So I used to like just like stay in the room and listen to him. Do a lot of self reflection, introspective stuff to figure out what I really really wanted. And I feel like if you feel sure in your heart and your soul that this is what you're gonna do, or this is what you want to do, then you shouldn't be scared. You should be nervous, right? Like I did drama 30 and
You're good at that. I watched the play, by the way.
thanks.
Yeah.
The director Dustin Maloney, Mr. Maloney, the drama teacher.
Yeah.
So he had a saying that rings true all the time. I say it actually all the time for people going for flight tests. He said, okay, so it is normal to be nervous before a performance like this, right? Like it's normal to be excited and nervous because nervousness is excitement. Your body just doesn't know what to do with it. What you shouldn't be is scared. If you're scared, that means that you're unprepared and you know it. So, and he would always say that before every show. I'd say, you should feel nervous, but you shouldn't be scared.
Mhm.
And that rings true, right? Like, if you're scared to start something, have you done the research? Are you sure that this is what you want to do? But if you're nervous about it or excited about it, send it. But don't half-ass it. Like, give it all or nothing, because you're really going to get out what you put in with really anything you do in life. So if you go 100% all in, you'll usually get a good return on it. But if you're like, 1 foot in the water, I don't know if I'm going to do it, that's going to be your 60%er, your 50% or 60%er. You're kind of iffy about it. So yeah, just make sure you know what you want and go for it. But I'm sure that if you just want to dedicate yourself to something, then you can be successful. At the end of the day, it's just a battle of will. You just got to be more stubborn than the universe, and you should be able to get through.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the podcast, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It was a great time.
The aviation, this whole big industry is just so fascinating. Like to see that we've conquered the sky almost, and
Mm-hmm.
we like I still have trouble. Like, is it believing?
Mm-hmm.
Are these things actually in the sky? Like flying? Like how?
I know what you're saying.
Like how much do planes weigh? Like
Well, which ones? The ones I fly,
yeah.
one's 1,700 pounds. The next one's 2,300 pounds.
Yeah, having that in the sky, man. Like birds that weigh that much. Wow. But yeah, as always to everyone, you are not alone, and there's a place for you in this world. And to always keep it long term. Dyjur, everyone. Keep it long term, everyone. Peace. Awesome, man. That's great.
Sweet.